탑가도 지적이 리존은 중입니다. 좀 생기는 것도 지적이 리존나 보샤. Rashid to all, I wish to give our warmest welcome to His Eminence Dzongsar Khyentse R here in Chile. His visit is an extraordinary opportunity where we will receive the teaching of one of the most outstanding and influential Buddhist master of our time through his work with Siddhartha instant and his dedication to the transmission of the Buddha Dharma. Rinpoche has illuminated the path for practitioners all over the world. It gives us great joy to welcome him back to these lands. In his teachings, His Eminence has emphasized the importance of integrating the Dharma into our daily life. Through his clarity and depth, he guides us to the heart of practice. Today, His Eminence will give teaching on the Buddhist view and conduct. Invite all of you to open your heart and minds. Listen attentively and receive these precious teachings with our invaluable guide for our spiritual practice. I am deeply grateful to His Eminence for his presence and teachings. I rejoice in the merit of those of us fortunate enough to listen to his work, and in this manner establish imprint of virtue and wisdom in our mind stem. Your being here today is a testament to your commitment and dedication to the Buddhist teachings. I aspire that each of us will integrate the work in a way that brings benefit to each and every being. Once again, we extend our warm welcome to you. Thank you very much.
So the subject of the discussion or our conversation will be about what is known as Mahayana and the Tantrayana, and how to sort of combine it and put it into so-called practice. Of course, there are a lot of seasoned practitioners and students of the Dharma, some very, very seasoned, and some, in fact, people who actually guide others. So for you, this is going to be just nothing new. But I believe that there are some who are fairly new to all these. So it's going to be a little challenging because I need to address to these people. If some of you were attending yesterday, yesterday was more like a very introduction, especially aiming for those who are quite new. While I will try to keep this accessible, today you may hear a lot of technical language and sort of classic Buddhist expressions and idioms and analogies, so you will have to bear a lot of that. Recently, I'm also noticing that in the process of trying to introduce Buddha Dharma to those who are different culture, sort of different background, and by trying to make it understandable to different culture, we need to be a little bit, and forgetting to, and sometimes even deliberately not using classic traditional nuances, may be dangerously depriving the Buddhist wisdom tradition. One good example is like mindfulness, which is quite trendy now, and people are kind of used to things like phenomena like mindfulness and yoga, for instance. And there's a lot of effort in trying to well, also it's a kind of a good mark, good, it's a lucrative kind of commodity, like mindfulness and yoga and stuff like that. So there's a money involved, in other words. So when there's a money involved, big part of it is always trying to sell it, and then you are always trying to sell it to whatever the buyer wants to buy, not what the seller wants to sell. So for instance, people talk a lot about mindfulness, but hardly people talk about mind. For Buddhism, mindfulness, fullness cannot be taught if you are not talking about mind. What are we trying to be full of? And also like a concept like yoga, now the moment the word yoga is mentioned, it is something to do with exercise, stretching. But so we are dangerously depriving even the definition of the word yoga, which is actually really profound. It's something to do with the balance. Not just balancing your asanas, your postures and stance. I think there's something like 8 chapters, right, in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. At the moment, we are more interested with the balance of the postures. I think 90%, 95% are more interested with that. Maybe 4% interested with the balancing prana, and almost maybe 1% then talk about other yoga. There's other yogas. Out of, I think it's 8 chapters or 8, yogas. We deal only with one and little bit with the second. The rest we don't even bother. And that is a very big deprivation. But such is the modern people's appetite. They only like bite size. But then they have big size dukkha. They only eat bite size medicine. So this coming conversations, I will try to, yes, make it accessible, but I think I will also throw in classic analysis and expressions. I think it's important, especially for those who are wanting to pursue Buddha Dharma seriously. So first I will give you few, let's say, Buddhist idioms or expression. I know we are going to talk about Mahayana and the Tantrayana. And yes, of course, you already know Mahayana and Tantrayana is teachings of the Buddha. Let's categorize like that. Now, it would be interesting for you to hear this idiom, Buddhist idiom. It's a very important one among the Buddhist philosophy student. In Tibetan we say it, Chemba Junsen tu je chue mishe. Buddha never taught anything because he knew the subject. No, that's it, that's the idiom. I think this is a very priceless idiom. So the teachings of the Buddha is always triggered by compassion, not by knowledge. Okay, let me sort of explain this a little bit in case you sort of misinterpret this. Of course he knows the subject, of course, but that is not the reason. It's not like he has finished a school, graduated, finished his training, and then he knows the subject, now he's become the expert, so now he got the job as a teacher. It's not at all that. His is all out of compassion. Okay, let me sort of decipher this a little bit. Let's say a question is asked to Buddha, who are you? Let's say actually the setting of this question is also occurred during actually philosophical discussion, not just like in the street, who are you? So actually the student is genuinely philosophically, academically, scientifically asking, who are you? So the answer of the Buddha does not come from this intention of sharing the knowledge. No, it's always out of compassion. So it goes something like this. I'm just illustrating. Buddha will look at this person and he may decide to say, "Oh, I am a son of Shuddhodana and Maya Devi. Once upon a time, I was a monkey." So on and so forth. So that's how he could answer. But to the same question, "Who are you?" Buddha could answer totally different way. So to somebody like Subhuti, one of his very important sort of student, and this is in the very famous sutra called Vajracchedika Sutra, Diamond Cutting Sutra. Buddha said, those who see Buddha as a form, sound, name, they all have a wrong view. So you see, there's a seemingly contradiction. So you will see full of contradictions in the sutras. Maybe I should use the word paradoxy. Full of it. And this is because the teaching is triggered by compassion. Now I needed to tell you this background because our subject is about Mahayana and the Tantrayana. And these two, Mahayana and the Tantrayana, many times there is a big paradoxy. And this is the very sort of the reason why, this is the very subject we are discussing, isn't it? How to unite, combine the Mahayana and the Tantrayana, as if those two cannot be combined, like there's that sense. Okay, so I'm sorry, some of these, as I said earlier, going to be a little technical and a little academical, but I think these are important because the teaching of the Buddha should never ever use just to feel good. It should really, really make you liberate from all what we call extremes. Yana, Mahayana, Sharvaka Yana, Tantra Yana. This Yana, the connotation of the Yana is something like a vehicle. Whatever you are using must take you point A to point B or Z. So this is one background I wanted to share. Okay, now another idiom, or this time a shloka, I wanted to share with you. And this is again going to be a little bit academical, but please hear it. And this is, I'm quoting a great, sort of the disciples of the disciple of the Buddha. His name was Shantideva, and I'm quoting from a very revered text called Bodhicharya Avatara. There, Shantideva said, this is a very important statement. You know how usually you will think, okay, Buddha Dharma is always trying to get rid of ignorance, right? That much you must guess at least. What is path for? Path is to, purify, get rid of ignorance. But in that shloka, what is it saying is, in order for you to be free from pain, dukkha, basically you should keep one ignorance for the time being. What ignorance should we keep? Thinking that there is a nirvana. That's a statement. And I think you need to hear this in order to, really explore the yanas. What we are trying to say is that ideas such as yanas are not like, first of all, it's really important, I think that Buddhism was never a consequences of a political movement. This is something that you need to know. I think people forget this. Because I think a lot of Abrahamic religion are consequence or a byproduct of political movement. I have a feeling sometimes, many times, you guys end up thinking, oh, Buddhism has to be something like this also. Remember our boss? He was having a good time. There was no issues in his life. Good father, mother died when he was born, queen, palaces, everything good. What happened is he went out and he saw the death, the birth and the old age, and then he thought, no, what is this? That's the quest for a truth. That's how Buddha became Buddha, because of this quest. So, what I want to say is Mahayana, Charvakayana, Vajrayana is not really like a religious fraction that we are kind of used to. I don't think it's like a Protestant, Catholic is not like that. I don't know about Catholicism and Protestant, I don't know, but I don't think it's like this. And it's also not like Shia and Sunni and all. Not like that. So you need to know this. In fact, let me now quote from the sutra, another shloka quotation for you. This is Buddha himself saying in the Samadhi Raja Sutra. There Buddha said, if a person thinks this is Charvakayana, this is Mahayana, this is Vajrayana, then this person is making a very big mistake. What Buddha said. Meaning, if you have this attitude, oh, this is Charvakayana, not for me. This is Vajrayana, now this is for me. If you have that kind of attitude, not good. That's like you looking at the fruit and totally ignoring the root of the tree and the branches and the stem of the tree, and only preferring the fruit and totally discarding the tree. But there's a human being's issues. It is true that as the teachings are taught, there is a lot of sectarian and divisions. I am a Charvakayana people, he is a Mahayana. That happens. Well, there are few good things, not many, I don't think so, but a few good things that the Tibetans have achieved. And one great thing they achieved is in Tibet, all yanas are venerated. And this is quite a good achievement by the Tibetans, I think. But still, Tantric Buddhism always takes over a bit. We will talk about that later. Now, in some parts of traditionally Buddhist society, like Thailand, Burma, they don't even accept Mahayana Buddhism as a Buddhism, let alone Tantra. Now this, actually, they have a very good reason to say that. It's not out of just, animosity they say that. But well, probably some do, but there is some root in this. So imagine, to all of you, I give you an information. Let's say I said, last night, Argentina and Chile played the football and Chile won 7-0. You all heard this. But during the break, teaching break, to some of you I said, actually it was not Chile, it was Germany. But I wanted to make the Chilean happy, so I said this. You understand? So now you come back, all of you. Some of you have exclusive information. And then there is sometimes, no, he said it's the Germans. Oh, it's the Chileans. We all heard it. You also heard it. They will point it to you, the exclusive people who, and at that time you have to say, yes, you also heard he said that. You understand? You have to agree that he said it was Chile who won. You have to agree. They don't have to agree with you saying it was Germany. So this has happened a lot. Now, among this exclusive small group, I actually said to only maybe 1 or 2 people another information. I'm telling them, can you not tell those 2 groups? But actually the match never happened. but don't tell them. So this, Tantra. So this kind of thing has happened a lot. But as I said earlier, as a human beings, there's always an emotion and there's always a little bit of a dispute also happen. There's a very good reason for that also. I think one of the greatest, most touching example is actually by a Chinese monk. I respect this monk so much. Many of you know his name is Xuanzang. If not for him, we will never know where Bodh Gaya is today. We will never know where Lumbini is today. And he was really sacrificed his life going to India and brought the Buddha Dharma to China. But in his, the thing is, unlike Tibetans and Indians and Tibetans, they don't have a good habit of keeping record. Chinese keep everything in record. So in his record, he had written all parts of his journey experience. Basically, he's almost like a diary, and it's fascinating because the things that he had to go through. I mean, just imagine the climate, the terrain, Chinese guy in India. He went to study in Nalanda. And not only that, when he went to India, he sneaked out of China because at that time, the Chinese emperor did not allow anybody to go out. But for the sake of the Buddha Dharma, he just went out. So he was a fugitive also. Anyway, in one of his writing, he said, well, when I was in, I think, present day Afghanistan, he went through that because he went through that journey. I saw these so-called tantric people because he was a Mahayana. He was not a tantric, practitioner. He said, I saw these, sort of disgraceful, sort of so-called tantric people. They come and sometimes they fly. They have magical power. He wrote, and he says, but we, the follower of the Buddha, we don't care about this magic, flying stuff. What is that? We are for enlightenment. Who cares about flying? Now, of course, how you read it is different. For me, when I read it, it was so touching because to me, it was a confirmation that there was a great tantric master. Now, of course, our subject is how to combine them and practice, isn't it? Which is such a very good wish that you have. Anyway, what I've been telling you is more like sort of the background of the Mahayana, these yanas. Now, a little bit more on actual, sort of yanas. So, why different yanas? So, in the tantric text, there is a term called jula meba jucheji, which means for those who likes cause, I shall teach cause. Jula meba jucheji. For those who loves cause, I am very much one of that. And most probably you are very much that. Because I am sure you consider yourself rational. You are believer of the expression, no pain, no gain. Yeah? Cause lover. It's a proof. There is no free lunch. Do you believe in that? That proves you are a cause lover. So many things. In order to become a Buddha, you need to work hard. You need to abandon ignorance. You need to have the right view, the right action, the conduct. See? Cause lover. Jula. It's such a beautiful expression. I don't know how to translate this properly. It's a tantric text. Jula. It's like, what do you want? Oh, you like cause. Let me give you a cause. It's a bit like that. Now, let's go to the other polar, so to speak. For those who loves result, I shall talk about the result. Now, this is, for me, I pretend that I like that, and intellectually I also get excited, but emotionally I can't accept. Okay, okay, so there's so many. Okay, I think my favorite is Longchenpa's word, right? In the treasury of Dharma Dhatu, Longchenpa says, which sentient being? I never see sentient being. What are you talking about? Which Buddha? What Nirvana? Are you crazy? Intellectually, I get excited to hear this. But emotionally, I am very much cause lover. I dare not love result. Okay, anyway, that is Tantra. Those, the teachings that really deals with the result is the Tantra. We will talk about this in more detail as we go, as we discuss. But I need to sort of explain a little bit more about Yana still. And then I think I've said this last time also. I don't know. It's related to what we just discussed. You know, the cause lover, the result lover. So, for someone who is seriously pursuing the path for the, enlightenment, they want to know who is this real teacher who is teaching them. So the answer you gave it to the taxi driver is not good enough, I told you. Now, I think maybe those who have studied Christianity, I don't know whether this is similar, but I think Christianity has probably the similar thing, like there's a Jesus, and then there's a God somewhere, and then there's a you, and this Jesus is the in-between you and the God, right? Yes. Broadband between you and the God. Now, for Buddhism, who is this broadband? The in-between, Because I already told you, Shakyamuni Buddha, the taxi driver answer is not going to work all the way. So the Buddhist answer is, actually it is your Buddha within. The Buddha, that is your nature. That is doing the teaching. Oh, there's a long analogy on this. Okay, one beautiful example. A lake, full moon, no cloud, no trees in the night, okay? No weeds growing in the lake. Reflection of the moon is in the water. Moon doesn't have the wish, I'm going to go in there, no. But the cause and condition of no cloud, clear water, all this conceives the reflection of the moon. Likewise, you, the lake, okay? Depending on how clear it is, of course. If it is really clear, no cloud, no weed, then this Buddha within teaches you. I will quote now Khyentse Lotus's praise to the Manjushri. I think from there you will understand a little bit. How does this Buddha within communicate? In your life, sometimes you feel awkward. Sometimes you feel empty. You have everything going on very well, but you feel empty. This, according to great masters like Khyentse Lotus, is saying that this is the sign that, I guess you can call it calling. Because you have the Buddha nature, you get sad. You want to know more. You are not like that anthropologist and the taxi driver. You feel, okay, you have everything, but this can't be all it. There has to be something more. Calling. Now, going back to the yanas, okay? So, the teachings that are mainly taught by your own innate Buddha nature are called sort of a higher yana, or more profound and more deeper and, I don't know, like a more serious yana. Shakyamuni Buddha and you, there's a 2,500 years gap. There's about maybe 100,000 people. You know, like remember I told you I say something and then the 10 people and the information is already changed. There's like hundreds and thousands of people involved. Sanskrit, Tibetan to English, English to Spanish, all these things gets murky. This Buddha, not a moment has gone, is always with you. And this communication is never contaminated by language. It's always communicated, so to speak. Problem is when you get sad and awkward, usually you inject dosage of numbing, juice. All this so-called entertainment, like movies, food, walk in the garden, reading a book, picking a fight with your husband or wife, or getting married, shopping, having sex or no sex. Sex is also a numbing juice, but I'm not going to have sex. That's also a numbing juice. Because sometimes they inject themselves with a celibacy juice, celibacy, what do you call it, vaccine, I think, celibacy vaccine, and then they feel, so good. And then this awkward feeling never really blossom. Well, I should say, all of you must have had some awkward feeling, otherwise why would you be here? Because there's so much better things to do out there. But somehow you choose to sort of sit here continuously. You must have some sort of a, I don't know, like this sort of really unpleasant but profound feeling, I'm talking about the yanas, by the way. So yana is a vehicle. I mean, it sort of means vehicle or a path. The moment you talk about a path, obviously you are talking about a path dweller, right? You have, if there's no path dweller, what is path? There is no path. The moment you talk about a path dweller, you are talking about a goal, the end to the, the path, and then this path dweller hasn't reached there yet. Some of you may be like sort of pondering, should I take this path or not? Some of you are just actually stepped in and starting to walk towards the path. And some of you are like, let's be safe. Let's go by a highway, gas stations, like there's a toilet stopover, restaurants, and path is also kind of straight, good road signs. Yeah, that's, Charvakayana, Mahayana. Some of you are more, like, oh, no, I don't have much time. I need to go take a shortcut. Maybe there'll be goats walking or cows walking. I'm thinking about India. Maize, all of this, no toilets, no restaurants on the way, but no, I need to reach there. I don't have much time. I'm going to endure all this, hardship. So some sort of a daringness, some sort of a decisiveness, then you jump into that. So that's up to, so that's a tantra. But what you want to know is how to combine the highway and the shortcut together, which, by the way, is also possible. Yes, it is. Because actually, in this day and age, purely going by shortcut is maybe, we just don't have that kind of courage. Maybe, we are taking a break. So, we were talking about Dhyana as the path, and therefore we need to talk about path dweller And when there is a path dweller, there has to be a goal, also meaning the path dweller is not there yet, right? By the way, these are all, whatever I'm saying, all these classic categorization. Then we have to also talk a lot about path language. We call it path language and symbolism. Yeah, now this is a complex. I think there's a very good, I think one of the great Zen expression, don't look at the finger, look at the moon. You can use the finger to point to the moon, but a finger can help you guide yourself to the moon, but you are supposed to look at the moon. But many times we end up looking at the finger because they're very beautiful, and the bracelets and the pedicure, manicures are so good. And also it's kind of there, right in front of you. Moon is so far. So anyway, path language, it's a very big subject. Path language, path tools, symbolism. Okay, let's choose just first path dweller. Massive subject. Let's approach this way. Sometimes in the teachings we hear that the practitioners are like a patient, the teacher is like the doctor, and the dharma is like the medicine. Patient meaning you have an ailment. So I guess we talk a little bit about ailment, which there's many, but one could sort of safely categorize into two big groups. Of course, there's different degrees, but two big groups we can categorize. One group that has more the sickness of eternalism. The other group, the sickness of nihilism. And now you choose, there's a lot of degrees. Some has, 90% eternalism, like 10% nihilism, like that. And then some of them are bipolar, like morning eternalism, in the afternoon they're nihilist, or half the life eternalist, the other half nihilist. So for different ailment, different sickness, different patient, you need to, give different medicine. Now this is me poking you guys a little bit. In the process of poking you, might help you understand the process. So I think the British English people, where do they belong to? So what should they deserve? Okay, so let's say I'm the doctor. I have the medicine, Mahayana, Vajrayana, Charvakayana, Pratyekayana, all these yanas in my store. So let's say English person come to me. I'm forgetting a big element here. If I am the doctor of the highest level, the Buddha himself, then I will have no problem. I know what to give. I will just mix a little bit of Vajrayana, a little bit, I don't know, make a custom-make medicine. Now, since I'm not the best doctor, I'm just a village clinic nurse who refused to resign. So I can only do some educated guest job. So an British person come to me. Don't forget, I'm this village doctor, not at all good, accomplished. But I've been in that clinic for a long time, so I'm quite good at doing guest job. So then English. I have to consider Church of England also in my head. And English are kind of, they're quite romantic. English kind of likes things like history. I don't know, I think they like anthropology. And they're very well behaved. They have a really strong root of politeness, etiquette, and all that. So even like, like how to hold a cup of tea, all this. So with that all in my mind, I will not be talking too much of the Vajrayana. I'll be, I think, sharing more the Theravada, Charvakayana. By the way, I'm probably joking a little bit, but so this is a bit, I'm also kind of telling the truth, because in England, actually, the Charvakayana prevails. And maybe because American also is similar, this kind of Anglo-Saxon sort of mindset, like Shamatha, Vipassana, they will like it. Makes sense. Maybe French also, I don't know. But Guru Yoga, no. French Revolution, Guru Yoga, we just finished, chopping all these terrorizers just few centuries ago. We are kind of now okay, and now this Guru Yoga, back to this listening to somebody. I may be joking, but you should really take this whatever I'm saying quite seriously. I really think this has some substance in what I'm saying. Where you grow up, sort of the moral landscape, certain values, really, we are talking about a sickness, right? Now, those things matters, but this is a big generalization. So let's say I have an English coming, very, as everything what I said earlier, and also very moral oriented, and rules, these are important, ethics important. But okay, here comes this is important, you have to pay attention. Okay, so the person is all of that what I just said, but biologically, English person is a very horny person. So here he is like talking, he or she is thinking things like benediction and, like morality, sin, blah, 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 all of that. But biologically, there's something else also going on. Now, since even though I'm not a perfect doctor, I'm quite seasoned, remember? And, I'm supposed to not give up my patient. So there I will have to now, I'm talking about our subject here, how to unite the Mahayana, the Yana, and the Vajrayana. So there I will have to sort of create a custom-make medicine. Also, don't worry, no need to feel bad about being horny. He or she may say, really? I would say, yeah. No need to worry. In fact, why don't you visualize yourself as totally naked? All that, tools we could supply. So anyway, this is how the path kind of, it's really complicated. It's not really, this is why it's never really like a dogma, like a set of rules. You can't eat chicken. We can't do that. So this is why Buddhism is never really, there is no set of rule. Yeah, so it's complicated. It's a very complex, but also it's very encouraging because there's something for everyone. Okay, now we are going to stop for lunch very soon. So before you go, some of you may not come back. So for this reason, I'm going to tell you how to combine not only Mahayana and the Vajrayana, but even the Charvakayana path in one go. So for those who are not coming back, at least you have this statement to take home, so to speak. Okay, so let's say you have a temper, you have anger. You should think, okay, anger is not a good emotion. Anger is going to destroy myself and others. I should not be angry. Anger is not good. Feel remorse for having anger and feel, long to change this habit of anger. Okay? So that's a Charvakayana path. Okay? Do 30 seconds. 30 seconds of that. Next 30 seconds, Mahayana practice. May everybody's anger come to me. I will take all these anger to myself. May the love and compassion go to all the others. 30 seconds of that. Okay, so that's already Sharvakayana and the Mahayana. Next 30 seconds, just watch the anger. Don't think it's bad. Don't think it's good. Don't also ask like why I'm angry and all that. No questions asked. Just watch. No judgment. That's a Tantrayana. So you can use this for the jealousy, the desire, everything. So this is how you can combine. Now, of course, this is very general, very, very generalized. There may be people who are more nihilist. You may be preferring to do the first practice more. I don't know why. Because of your, I don't know, past habitual patterns of condemning yourself. You like condemning yourself. Oh, anger is not good. I'm really bad. Maybe you have that kind of habit. So again, this is very, very individual. In some case, for this kind of person, the Mahayana way is better. Okay, like, oh, anger is not good. Other people's anger is not good. I'm going to take their anger. That kind of mind training. But usually, people who have that habit of self-flagellation, like condemnation, they will have difficulty in doing the third one. Because the third one is for people who actually can accept no pain, all gain. But that's a little, rare, this kind of people. We have the habit of cause, but have to work hard. Okay, so the path dweller, I think this will do, because it's a really we say sometimes in Buddhism, there are more than 84,000 different emotions. So those who have these emotions are what we call path dweller. Maybe I will let you ask 2 questions before we have break for lunch.
And so yesterday you were referring to the driver could always be wisdom and the co-pilot compassion. So understanding that this co-pilot has a Waze application in his cell phone. And then understanding the Tantrayana as the vehicle. Are you referring to the 3 spheres?
In the Tantrayana? We will talk about Tantrayana maybe later. This wisdom, compassion, and action, the conduct, this actually exists with all the yanas. Wisdom for Sharvakayana is like having a full picture of 3 characters, like anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Things are impermanent, things are not perfect, and things are selfless. And compassion for these people are really basically not harming others, really putting a lot of effort in not harming others. And therefore, there's a lot of conduct that involves not harming others. For instance, like Panchashila, like a 5 precept. The conduct is also dedicated for guarding one's own mind from distractions that could that can make you go astray. Now, for the Mahayana, wisdom, compassion, and the conduct, it's of course rooted to what we just discussed, but it has its own character. Maybe some other questions.
Her question was about the result. And because she, Western mind tends to think that the cause brings a result. So she wanted to clarify that relationship.
Again, can you repeat that again?
The cause brings about a result.
Yes.
So if we're focusing on the result and what happens to the cause.
I'll be talking about like when I was saying the lover of the cause during
Yeah, I
that
think
in
that's
that
what she was-
context.
yeah.
Okay. Hopefully, we will discuss more when we talk of the Tantra. But I think this is again yet another classic example. I think
Okay.
this will help. Straight coming both from Mahayana and the Vajrayana. Let's say you're looking for gold. Someone give you a bag of ore. Now, if you are smart, you know about gold, you'll be happy, even though it doesn't remotely look like shiny, like how the gold is supposed to look like. Okay, so there's that kind of people. On the other hand, there are people who looking for gold, but they are looking for something that is already processed, burned, purified, shiny, maybe earring, necklace. So when I say the lover of cause, we are talking about the second one. People who like things that's already processed, liking the ore, accepting the ore as the gold is the tantric attitude because it's actually gold. I know these are really, really complex, so maybe I'm not explaining too well here. I'm thinking how to do this. It might come in my head. So meanwhile, you can ask some other
Puede que
question.
ya venga. She had a second part of her question,
Mhm.
which had to do with, you were saying yesterday that we have nothing to improve. But yet, is it yet that we should observe our conduct?
Yeah, that's it. That's the
Ahí está.
goal or. You're thinking, this bag of ore is bag of gold. Also, we are talking about attitude, attitude. And I said, you are smart. And it matters because let's say you have no time. You have maybe only like 5 minutes. Somebody is actually giving you a bag of ore. And then if you are complaining about this is not shiny, this is not polished, and then the person says, oh, well, I'm sorry, then I can't give you anything. Then this is a big loss for you. So your attitude, oh, yes, that's an ore, that's this will do, So the tantric attitude. But I understand these are very complex. So I will try to use a text to explain step by step, especially Mahayana and the Vajrayana. For instance, in the Mahayana, we talk about bodhicitta, and the bodhicitta is usually known as a wish to awaken all sentient beings. Vajrayana accepts that, but Vajrayana may also have this element saying all sentient beings are deity, Buddha, awakened. So the attitude is different. One is, I want to enlighten them. The other is they're enlightened. Big difference. The Mahayana attitude is like enlightenment will come later after a lot of hard work. The Tantra is enlightenment is now. Also, when we talk about a path dweller, we talk a lot about faculties. I was trying to talk by sort of making some jokes about the English and all of that. That's what I was mainly talking about, the faculties. Okay, in the Mahayana, the teaching of the shunyata, emptiness. To whom should you teach the shunyata? One would think that shunyata should be taught to people who are thinking logically, people who are deductive, deconstructing. One would think, oh, they will understand shunyata. Well, for Mahayana, they will say not necessarily. So the answer is, the Mahayana people say that shunyata should be taught to people just by mentioning the word shunyata. If the person has a goosebump, if the person have a tears in their eyes, if the person has a just unexplainable feeling, they will understand. As you can see already, even in the Mahayana, logic and reasoning is not the most important. As for the Tantrayana, it's way more. When the Dakini request Heruka to teach the Tantrayana, Heruka refused. Dakini insist. The Heruka said, okay, if you insist, then we should be in union. The reason is only when there is a union, all logic and rational collapses. If you are trying to listen to a teaching with a rational and logic, you will not understand Tantra. So there's all that union symbolism. You must have seen. May not go down very well to, British anthropologists, moralists. It may not go down that way. What is this? It won't go down. I was thinking about this. It must be so shocking for, Protestant and Catholics, when you first see like a Vajra or a Chakra Sambara. It must be so shocking. You must think, what is this devil? Now, if you are not, and if you are attracted to that, that is equivalent to the goosebump and the tears I was talking. If you come from a cultural background where things like body, rest, union are sin, and yet you go to a, like a Kala Chakra Tantra, it's basically a pure pornography, then, you belong to the goosebump department, like that category. But be careful, you may have this goosebump once in a while, but anthropologist tendency will always attack. Anthropologist, moralist, priest, monkish kind of, like that tendency will always hijack. And do you know why they will hijack successfully? Because they actually make sense. They're very sensible. Would you receive a teaching from a master with the 8 head and 16 arms? Yeah, probably you will if you are in the state of ayahuasca or something. But in your so-called rational, sensible time zone, you will not let him in your room. Too scary. You will call 911 immediately. Anyway, there's just too much information. I'm just going to whatever comes in my head, I will just throw in. Partly because I think also, at least some of you should have a glimpse of the richness of the so-called Buddha Dharma. It is very, very rich. It has the variety of purely very, like moralistic, puritanical sort of path, all the way to, like complete opposite path. And they are in harmony if you know how to glide with it. Okay, so next question.
So thank you for your teachings. And in terms of the role of the teacher as the doctor and the student as the patient, it seems to be that what is the role of the patient? It seems to be a bit passive. And out of ignorance, of course, it's hard to pick a path. And out of the same ignorance, difficult to choose a teacher. So what would you recommend regarding this?
Yes, this actually role of the patient is not at all passive, it's equally active, very active. First of all, even the role of teacher really means different things in the Mahayana and the Vajrayana. For the Sharvakayana and the Mahayana, teacher is a guide, one who leads you, who gives you instructions, how we understand usually. For the Vajrayana, it is that also, yes, but Teacher is everything. It is the path. It is the failure. It is the success. It is also the glass of water. It's the one who drinks. It's really complicated, complex. It's not, it's you. It's also not you. In the Vajrayana, it's the path dweller, and the goal. Because, remember I gave you the example of broadband, remember earlier? So, in the Vajrayana, teacher also is not that physical person who gives you the instructions, the human being. No. That's just symbolic. The real teacher is none other than your own nature of the mind, so on and so forth. But the outer teacher also is very important, because the outer teacher will facilitate to understand this inner teacher. And how do you really bump into this outer teacher? Karmic connection, and also, more importantly, how savvy you are utilizing this outer teacher. If you are really, really good at it, basically everything is your teacher. Butterfly, small insect, everything. Now, let's assume that you are not that matured. Then it is usually one or two or three, or this being who you have affinity. Now, when we talk about affinity, we are also talking about patient. So affinity is not necessarily coming as, you bump into this, you are chosen, master who will then have some halo towards you. Not necessarily. It could be something like you like pizza with anchovy. This master also likes pizza with the anchovy. Or dislike, doesn't matter. Whatever, something that connects you. You can't stand anchovy, but your master keep on ordering anchovy. So through the anchovy, you have a connection. You understand? It's very, very, there is no set of rule. So many beautiful stories regarding this. One of the greatest one is the Saraha. Saraha was the president or the dean of the Nalanda University. So learned scholar, he accomplished. He was the teacher in the university, but he was never satisfied with what he know. So one day he saw in the street this part arrow maker, part prostitute. And I think there's many versions, but anyway, one version is that she makes the arrow and then she shoots to just anywhere, no target. I don't know, somehow Saraha asked, why you just aimlessly shoot? The lady's answer is, this is your problem. You are always looking for an aim. And that interaction, totally Saraha surrendered to her. I think he even volunteered to be the bouncer when she is having customer. This means a lot. Just imagine, Nalanda University is not a small matter. It's a very prestigious university. The kings were the patrons, and he's the dean, and he's being a bouncer in some prostitute house. All for the love of this tantric wisdom. And he's already very learned. Of course, there was a lot of scandal. Why is our dean found in that street? What is he doing there? Like that. I think he was longing to be fired, basically. And then, of course, the university had a hard time because he was a very valuable scholar. They don't want to fire him easily. But he upgraded his obnoxiousness. So, according to the rules, he got fired or something like that. So these are the tantric stories. Tantric events, tantric analogy. Okay, I think we will go and have lunch. So this afternoon, we are going to dwell more on the Mahayana. Sometimes Tantrayana is also considered part of the Mahayana. So these categorizations can be quite confusing. There's one way of categorizing is causal path and the result path, which we discussed this morning. Anyway, once again, to sort of cap it, I will speak in a slightly different idiom. Semi sanjit jurush, sem sanjit sucheba. So the way Mahayana speak is that mind is cause of the Buddha. That's how they sort of articulate it. And in the Vajrayana, mind is the Buddha. You may think, oh, these are just some words, not much of a big difference. But actually, it's not true. There is a distinction, as I said this morning, and also the courage. And attitude and the courage is also because of the view. Remember, if you are really smart, savvy, you know what you are doing, and then somebody give you a bag of ore, your attitude is sort of fearless and no doubt accepted. So you relate to this bag of ore as the goal. You don't even see all the dirt, and because you have this very trained view. Now, so how does this apply to, let's say, the compassion? So Mahayana's compassion is more like, oh, all sentient beings have Buddha nature, but they don't know that, and therefore compassion. So the Bodhisattva, when they look at sentient beings, the attitude is the potential of those who I can make into Buddha. This is already quite special because this already makes the Bodhisattvas fearless and tireless. It's like when you wash laundry, when you do the laundry, even though the laundry, whatever you're washing, you are washing the dirt, but the attitude is the dirt is washable. That confident. The Vajrayana is, you can use the term compassion. I guess the English word compassion is not really translated in the Dichambu, But anyway, in the Vajrayana, you already see the beings as the Buddha. Pure perception, sometimes we call it. So, as you can see, because of that view, the attitude is different. Because the attitude is different, your interaction with the people is also different. Anyway, Mahayana, let's talk a little bit about Mahayana. I have to say, the term Mahayana may be many times be used with a little bit of a chauvinistic attitude. In fact, it is very common in the Mahayana countries like Tibet, China, Japan. They even use words like Hinayana, sort of the lesser vehicle. I think now the Tibetan teachers are becoming a little bit self-conscious using this. Just imagine, so-called Hinayana, which is Theravada Shabd. They're much more. There's much more of them than the so-called Mahayana. Okay, but anyhow, we use the word Mahayana, greater vehicle. Now, this greater and lesser, I don't like using this hierarchical word, but anyway, it's there. But anyway, hear me out, my explanation why we use words like Mahayana. But let's begin with the view, because that's the fundamental. This is something for those who are studying Buddhism, you need to really keep in mind. For Buddhism, the view is the fundamental. Meditation or the practice and the conduct, all this is secondary actually. In fact, no view, but only meditation and conduct, actually that is religion. it actually ends up becoming rigid, very rigid. Okay, so it's really, really the most important, the view. I cannot emphasize enough. And lots of Buddhist shastras are dedicated in pointing out, establish, and construct the view. Also, probably it is the most difficult one. Also, is least exciting. For instance, okay, so there's the view, there's a meditation, and there's action. So the meditation and action, they're a little more exciting. Like, let's meditate. So sit straight, stuff like this. You can do something. Visualization, breathing. Then the conduct, such as, diet, lifestyle, all different varieties. Okay, there are Buddhists who diligently shave their head, but on the other hand, there are Buddhists those who diligently keep their hair. There are Buddhists who appears as a ascetic, like a renouncant. That's their conduct. Then there's a Buddhist that are household, so they have abundance. That's their conduct. This is important that you know, because normally many people think monk, Buddhism, all the others you don't even think. That's a big mistake. For instance, like Buddha had many disciples. There are renouncant disciples like Subhuti, Ananda, Shariputra. But they are also very wealthy, glorious, ornate, lay disciples, Manjushri, Avalokiteshvara, all those, earrings, nose rings, all kinds of things. These are really important to know. And then also many people think that Buddhist practices like ascetic, renouncance, like monk, well-behaved. But that's not only the conduct that you can choose. I have to say that's a very safe choice. Therefore, you see a lot of monks and nuns. There is totally opposite practice of conduct, such as yogis. And even within the yogis and yoginis, you can upgrade your conduct. Nowadays, difficult. It's safer to be a monk or nun. Let's say you become Tantrika, Kali practitioner. Genuine Kali conduct. I don't think you have the courage to do it. Because the moment you see somebody, instead of saying, hi, how are you? How have you been? You have to call them, you bastard, you bitch. Like that. Just totally, that takes courage. You would lose friends, families. You'd be outcasted. And that's what you want. I mean, there are few people still in India, Himalayas, I know myself, I know few of them. They may not necessarily, like verbally, say what I was saying, but they just are impossible to work. I used to have a lot of tutors, and one of my tutor was like that. Actually, two of them. And one of them really special. Now I was very young. I was really young, but he was appointed as my tutor. Actually, he was a very, very highly ranked Lama. But we have to always make sure that he do not sit on the high throne. He's always put somewhere at the corner. We have to, because otherwise we could get into trouble for days. This I remember very clearly. It's one of the most significant chapter of my life. One morning he disappeared and never ever found. We searched, of course, everywhere, but there's not many places to search in Bhutan. Right? So it's not like New York. We searched for days, and then his own friend, who was somewhere else, came. And when he saw us searching for him, Oh, his friends, oh, don't bother. There's no point. Because he had always wanted to do this. He actually took vow to Khyentse Chokilodo. He was a disciple of Khyentse Chokilodo. He took a vow that he is going to disappear. And that's exactly what he did. You know, there was a question yesterday whether Buddhism is a spiritual path or not. After hearing all of this, you have to decide. This and all this is to really understand the truth, the view. You must have heard the system of doing 3 years retreat. There is that discipline. But there's another discipline called Ngemeji Nanjepa, meaning this is a practice that, so it's a bit like you go somewhere and then as soon as you bump into somebody, whether you know or not, doesn't matter, but as soon as you bump into this person twice, you move the place. And you cannot stay in one place more than 3 days anyway. Very, very difficult practice. I'm telling you, okay, so the view, right? The view. So this is all because of the view. Now, when we talk about a view, we have to establish the view, right? And again, this is from the sutra, but I will modify this a little bit so that you can understand. If you have a 1 week old baby, you cannot shove pizza in the baby's mouth. You have to make something soft and soluble food. Maybe make the food also a little interesting. I don't know, put some nice taste. And then the mother or the father also have to sing song, make different noise. That's something. If you shove down a pizza or a steak, baby will die. But just like that, the real view, shunyata, is like the steak. Well done steak. Maybe raw, I should say. So cannot give it to the young baby practitioner. So we have to make the view soluble, soft, interesting, nice taste, small piece, fit in the mouth. Okay, and there's a lot of that. I will give you a few. One classic one, a most fundamental classic one. All compounded things are impermanent. Yes, that's it. That's soluble and that's understandable. You cannot disagree with that. It's all things are impermanent all the time, everywhere. And that's the soluble kindergarten level view number one. Even that, if you can chew and digest, really so much benefit. So there's a few more. Okay, so let's make it a little bit more. Now the babies become bigger. Okay, so since we are going to talk about Mahayana, I'm going to stick with that. Okay, so that more matured food is self. What is that? Where is your self? Selflessness. We still think self is the most important. Clinging to the self is the great grandmother of the samsara. But then you digest it. Also because you really want to get the hell out of this, anxiety, this pain, this endless chores. So you just want to get out. So that's why we selflessness. That's a big one, actually, quite a big one. Now the Mahayana view. This is not even Mahayana. You can get it in the Sharvakayana level. Now the Mahayana view. Yes, all compounded things are impermanent. The self does not exist truly. Then the Mahayana will say, want to get the hell out of here? There is no self. There is nothing to get out of. You want to be liberated? There is no liberation. Yeah, this is very big. It's called the extremeness, shunyata. Even in the Heart Sutra, they teach that gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisattva. Gone, beyond gone, absolutely gone. Okay, so that is the sort of the Mahayana view. But let me again explain this in a different angle. So the Mahayana's view is nothing exists, nothing not exists. All phenomena, when all the conditions are put together, there is a seemingly a phenomena. If right from this morning, if I'm sitting on this table, you will not think that this is a table. You will think it's a special chair. Conditioning. That's how, just because somebody's butt is on it, then you just decide it's a chair. Pause, condition, like a rainbow. Light, sun, little bit of moisture. And distance is important. You don't want to go too close because you don't see it. It's there, but it's also not there. You cannot say, oh, it's absolutely there. Of course not. So this is the Mahayana view. By knowing it, you are liberated from all the dungeon of extreme that exists. There's one dungeon, not exists. Those two are dungeons. And then more sophisticated dungeon is both exist and not exist. And neither. On an intellectual level, maybe it makes a little sense, but it's also really difficult even on the intellectual level. Because it's very difficult to explain. What's the name of this? Abhyana. It's very difficult to explain to someone who has never eaten abhyana how it tastes. So the only language we use is negation. So let's say I need to explain to a Bhutanese who has never even seen abhyana. Then first I say, okay, this is abhyana from Chile. Then I give him a chili, chili. And then I will tell him, hey, that's not it. Salt, not it. Sugar, not it. The only method we can use is negation word. That's why we use a lot of negative words like no nose, no eyes, no ear, emptiness. One angle. There's another angle also, the angle of luminosity. Okay, so that's the view, and actualizing that view, not only intellectually, but completely emotionally, habitually, actualizing this. And when you finally do it, it's called liberation. Liberate from all extremes, I've already told you. But this is just a word, isn't it? Liberation from all extremes. Don't know what it is. Liberate from time. Can you think about it? Liberation, you can use this as an example. Liberation from certain hang-ups. Not necessarily for life, but for like 2 hours. Maybe a bottle of red Chilean wine will do it. When you get drunk, you liberate it from time. I'm giving you an example. But the problem with the liberation of time because of the Chilean wine or the red wine, any red, is it's manufactured. When that red wine is slowly disappearing, you are back to the time. Perhaps you may find yourself in a prison or something. But we drink, we become, why do we like to get drunk? Because we want to be free from some inhibition. We want to be a little bit bold. We want to be able to speak what we usually would not speak, right? So use this as an example. So if you can dismantle all the notion of time, space, good, bad, all of this. Okay, so to do that, you need to really actualize the view. So to actualize the view, now you practice. Let's talk a little bit about Mahayana practice. First of all, let's talk about the definition of practice. This is important. I've been telling everyone. People say, oh, he or she is a good practitioner. And if you ask, why is he a good practitioner? Usually people say something, oh, he has done retreat, he doesn't drink, he doesn't eat garlic, he doesn't eat meat, all this stuff. See, got nothing to do with the view. It's just somebody don't like garlic, so they don't eat it. Or somebody loves sort of routine life. You know, some of us, we do love routine life because it makes you feel like your life is together. Like 1 hour jog, sweat, and all of that make you feel that you have achieved something. Some of us are like that. Get up 4 in the morning, you feel achievement. And of course, there's a part of you just want to sleep. But then if you just, don't wake up, like, don't fold your bed, whatever, then you also feel not right. So measuring the practice by count, lifestyle, not really correct. It would be better if somebody says, oh, he or she is a good practitioner. And the reason is this, he and she is always, she thinks about, oh, maybe I won't see you tomorrow. Maybe I might die tomorrow. That's much, much, much better. And if this person doesn't get so excited by praise or get depressed by criticism, because praise, criticism, they're just not a big deal. It's a good practitioner. If you say, oh, this man is a good practitioner because he doesn't give a damn about, social expectations. That's quite high. That's quite high. But there's even higher one. She's such a good practitioner. She doesn't give a damn about social norms and expectations, but she will drink champagne, wear tuxedo, bow tie, put on lipsticks and, do everything right to fit in the sentence. That's a really, really difficult definition of practice. Any kind of physical, mental, verbal activity that will take you closer to the view. There's 2 other elements you need to know about the practice. Your practice must have 2 ingredients. Must. If you are making a coffee, you have to have at least coffee bean and water, I guess. Otherwise, there's no coffee. Without milk is fine. Sugar, no sugar, also okay. I guess fire is important. So likewise, practice must have a 2 ingredient, wisdom and method. So I offered this to the Buddha, the rose. Offering the rose, getting up early in the morning to go to the flower shop, those are sacrifice, spending money on it, respectfully offering this. This is called method, wisdom. That, I'll put it very crudely, this is just silly. It's not a big deal at all. We human beings decided that it's a rose. That's the only reason it's a rose. In fact, this can be anything. Basically, the value is seen from the context of illusion for a practice. For the what is it? Defining what makes a practice. You have to have both. For everything. Since it's important, I will give you one more example. Let's say I'm a psychiatrist. He's the crazy man. And I'm trying to help him become normal. And my method is really, what is it? The bed, making him lie down, talk about his ups and downs and everything. Those are all methods. So we apply all the psychiatrist or psychologist method. Wisdom is telling me, is normal? There is no such thing. I just think that he is not normal, and that's just my projection. It is not even necessarily true. The benchmark of cured is just, some people wrote it, and there's some statistics. So just projection of some group of people. These two must be there. If you have these two, I will never get tired of helping him. Otherwise, I will make a target, okay, to be normal of this man. I make a mark, okay, so he will have less beer. And then I will end up working so hard to make him drink less beer, which is my goal. It's not, we don't know whether it's really necessary, but it's my goal. With this, yeah, maybe he will drink less beer. It's just achievement of what I projected. Maybe he will never drink less, and then I will get like so frustrated because I am so attached to the concept called cured. Maybe I end up become crazy myself because I haven't achieved the cured target. So behind every psychologist, they have another psychologist working with this psychologist. So therefore, this wisdom and method, so important, so important. This also exists with the Tantra, same thing in the Tantra. Some of you made mandala offering. Sun, moon, this, that. I mean, if we don't talk about wisdom and method, telling somebody, I'm offering you sun, that's like you are treating the gurus, your teachers like a kid. I'm giving you a sun, I'm giving you moon. But because of the wisdom and the method, you can do it. And the so-called doing it is also very illusory. So, based on that, in the Mahayana, there's something called 6 or 10 paramita. That is the Mahayana path. Within the 6 paramita, there is a section, there's a samadhi, the meditation. That's mainly to do with making your mind malleable and then know the truth, basically. Yeah, I'll be taking a break. You are creating famine of spiritual practice. You are creating poverty of practice. Remember, practice is doing or thinking or not thinking or not doing or anything that takes you closer to the view, closer to the truth. Flying all the way from, let's say, Los Angeles, thinking I'm going to go and listen to this thing. Probably you also know you may never sit. Okay, maybe you might sit, but after about a week or two, that enthusiasm to sit will slowly disappear. Santa Monica beach life is too, tempting. Venice Boulevard, shopping malls, just loitering around there is just so blissful. But putting some effort, I will go there and listen. Because I want to get closer to the truth, at least intellectually, at least on an information level. You should consider this as a practice. I myself am doing this. I consider myself, this is my practice. It's just so fortunate that 2,500 years after Shakyamuni passed into the parinirvana, that I could share his wisdom in Santiago. He's from thousands of miles away. And you are from here. There's not much reason why you would be even attracted to him. But this is your karmic connection. Just as me, was born in Bhutan. I think some of you may have heard this. I feel very connected to Inca. I don't have many good reasons why I feel connected to Incas. Very shallow reason, like I like their ornament. And I kind of don't mind when I hear that they sacrifice human beings. I said, oh, well, that's fine. And when Spain lose World Cup, I feel happy because I feel they need, those are the people who disrupt these Incas. I feel vindicated. These are that's it. That's very stupid, very shallow, but Here we go. You guys have this kind of feeling with the Buddha. I don't know why you like, but there's a some, Yes, of course, maybe, intellectually, academically, some of the arguments are quite sensible. That's very small. Feelings are very, very powerful. Reason, not so much. So I feel very fortunate that I'm sharing this. I consider this as a practice. I tell myself in the beginning, sometimes in the middle, and sometimes towards the end, I try to think, okay, whatever comes out from my mouth, may it somehow benefit these people. Yeah, even a coughing, may it somehow make them feel, oh, Punyata, that kind of makes sense. If I can create a little bit of that, just a momentary feeling of, like impressed with the Punyata or compounded things, the impermanent, even a momentary in your head, in your being, in your system. After that, you forget, you never come back to the teaching. You end up becoming, I don't know, one of the lineage holder of, let's say, cancer culture, religion, or whatever. You understand? Then your life ends, this life ends. Next 500 lifetime, you become a pigeon somewhere in Kathmandu, or a crab in Bangkok that gets fried again and again by those Thai people. One day, after 500 lifetimes, you end up reborn as a fly that happened to be landing on some hall where non-duality teaching is going on. Somehow, because being a fly, you don't understand the thing, but somehow the energy of the non-duality that is being uttered has made you really flustered. And then you end up being reborn as a granddaughter of a 7-day Adventist who ends up reading Nagarjuna. That's all I'm looking for. For me, this is Dharma practice. I consider this as a success. So I'm just trying to tell you what practice means. It has a lot to do with the motivation, and also it has a lot to do with the attitude based on a certain view and grand planning, grand vision. So if you can think like that, the practice, everything ends up becoming practice. Saving holidays so that you can meditate, practice. Appeasing your boss so that he will give you leave, enough leave to receive teaching. That's a practice. Becoming very good at lying to your atheist mother-in-law so that you can go to some meditation center and practice for 3 days. Practice as long as whatever you do takes you closer to the truth. But having said all of this, all the other ritual definitely helps. Of course, I could smash some coffee beans with some ordinary hammer on a street pavement. I don't know. And boil that coffee. It will still be a coffee. But the ritual, the paper, and then the watering, and then the smelling, and then all that, creates the atmosphere, and that ritual helps. Many times these rituals are, like that. I've never seen somebody sending back the wine after smelling and tasting. They all seem to sort of shake the glass, smell it, put it in their mouth, and then roll their tongue a little bit. I don't know what they're doing. And almost always this one's good. Now, if they're not doing that, something is missing. Just like that, sitting straight, mala, flowers, really helpful. So, you can have that. But it is also, he was asking yesterday, with this mind of wisdom and method, wisdom and method as the important, it is possible to create a mind training that works only for Chileans. I was thinking about that last night. Maybe instead of 100,000 prostration, 100,000 relok. Yes, relok. After about 5 times of singing, it will really be painful, I'm telling you. Then it will become a good mind training. And then, after about 100,000 times, wholeheartedly with the bodhicitta, with the pure perception, wisdom and method all together, I think relok is quite profound. It's about clock. Anybody know how to sing relok?
¿Alguien aquí se lo sabe?
Nobody knows how to sing relok?
Yeah.
Is it a Cuban thing? Oh, I see, Mexican. I'm sorry. I shouldn't ask you. What do you have instead of reloj? What do you think the Chileans can sing? Rasi Habil? Oh, yes. Okay, I will let you ask some questions.
Reloj, no marques las horas, porque voy a enloquecer. Ella se irá para siempre cuando amanezca otra vez. No más me queda esta noche para vivir nuestro amor. Y tu tic-tac me recuerda tu inigualable dolor. Reloj, detén tu camino. Ahí me ayudan, porque mi vida se va. Eres la estrella que alumbra mi ser. Yo sin tu amor no soy nada. Detén el tiempo en tus manos y haz de esta noche perpetua para que nunca se vaya de mí, para que nunca amanezca. Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto, me dio 2 luceros que cuando los abro, perfecto distingo lo negro del blanco, y en el alto cielo su fondo estrellado, y en las multitudes el hombre que yo amo. Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto, me ha dado el sonido y el abecedario, con él las palabras que pienso y declaro. Madre, amigo, hermano y luz alumbrando la ruta del alma del que estoy amando.
There's no questions.
You were saying yesterday there's no time to waste. And so if there's someone in the West who has been practicing the Buddha Dharma for some time, would it be advisable to take the time to go live in a temple, say in Nepal? Or should he or she wait for her kids to grow up and until the moment where they can buy the house and the place that they live?
I think this is very personal and individual. I don't know. Maybe you can do both. I think going to a place like Nepal at least once is maybe good. In about 10 years, 20 years, some of that sort of quality of Nepal may not exist. Raising children, creating a home. Again, as I was saying, even that could be easily taken as a path. Whoever has the mic.
And so considering everything that we've discussed here, what is the best way to maintain the Bodhisattva vow?
The Bodhisattva vow time to time. Because there's some request, we will do it tomorrow.
I just wanted to ask,
if you're going to go on with the view.
More from the tantric angle, and then we will conclude it with how to practice combination. I've already said briefly mentioned this morning, but we will do it bit more elaborated. Actually, these two, even though they are kind of different, but they also really are one. Okay.
Sorry, it's different from the
The
visualization.
Mahayana and the Tantrayana, they are kind of different, but also they are very complementary to each other. We will discuss.
So his question is personal, but he feels that this question might help others too. And so he has a teacher within the Tantrayana, but sometimes feels that his practice loses or is lacking vision and being complacent to executing the intentions of the Guru. So is that practice of Guru Yoga losing an aspect of vision, or is it in itself a vision review?
I think even for those who have been practicing for some time, I think it is always good to hear the theory of generally all the Buddha Dharma, especially for the Tantric practitioner, theory and time. No need to hear it every day, but time to time, sort of replenish, refresh. I think this is kind of important, especially for the beginner practitioner, because the Guru, relationship with the Guru, sadhana practice, all this, as I've been telling you, is related to the view. And sometimes lack of information of the view may make you feel very distant and unintuitive. So like this morning I was talking about mindfulness. If you don't know much about mind, but just only talk about mindfulness, I think it will cause constipation, because mind by nature is never idle. Always like this, you know.
En movimiento.
And then many people, when they are doing mindfulness, they are trying like this, you know, they focus. Half an hour mindfulness is usually like half an hour of anxiety, paranoia that you are distracted. But if you hear a little bit of a theory of the mind, it will immediately help you. For instance, like I can always teach you shamatha. Okay, everybody concentrate on this. Don't think about others, just this. Then you all try. And then as you try, you realize your mind is going everywhere. And then you come back to, I just can't do it. My mind immediately goes here and there. Now, if I'm a good teacher, then I will give you a medal, A+. Because the whole point of shamatha, especially in the beginning, is to know, to make you realize your mind is not stable. If you come back by saying, you know, I really had a good meditation, so blissful, lights everywhere. If I'm a good teacher, I will look at you like this. You know, stuff like that. Theory is so important. I think it's good to hear. It's actually prescribed to some form during contemplation and meditation. So I encourage this.
Okay, so his question is about the two elements you said were so important, method and wisdom, because he finds it complex and paradoxical in practice, because he understands method as the sacrifice for a value, yet wisdom as understanding that the value is non-existent and is illusory. And so this is kind of complicated for me, so he would like advice in order to be able to practice.
This is any example. Sharpening knife is basically rubbing a metal on a wet stone, and both stone and the metal burns out, and that's called sharp knife. Also, like a fire and a firewood, burning means less wood. You know, in America they have something called cancel culture. I'm very interested because I think Tantrayana is the highest cancel culture. Anyway, tomorrow we are talking Tantra, things like this. Solution, and the problem must go both. Both must go at the end. There is no such thing as you solve the problem and then keep the solution. So this is the very reason why the method and wisdom is placed there to cancel each other. It's everywhere, actually, it's everywhere. For instance, shamatha, vipassana. Shamatha and vipassana is actually like an enemy. Shamatha is supposed to make your mind calm. But vipassana is to make you understand there is no mind that is doing calming. There's a lot of that. Now you see why Buddhism is not flourishing like a fire. It's not going to grow that much. Too complicated. Do you want a freedom? I think this is it. Do you want to be free from solution? Of course you want to be free from the problem. But if you are not free from the solution, that means something is wrong with you. That means you are not sleeping well, because you are still holding to something. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. Everywhere. It's everywhere. It's even here. Buddha, Shakyamuni, his body, sitting on the lotus. Not possible. Lotus is still good, like not possible. Lotus is flattened, like a, squished, flattened, and damaged. There's so many of that. Any more questions?
So her son wanted to ask a question yesterday, but because of time, he wasn't able, and so she promised she would try to formulate this question for him. And she said, so, Mommy, please ask Rinpoche, how does he perceive the world?
Think about it. It's a big question. I'm not answering to him right now, but I'm going to answer to you guys. I'm trying to see the world through Charvakayana, Mahayana, and the Vajrayana. It's not always working because I'm hijacked by hope, fear, expectation, assumptions. And but sometimes, because I grew up with a Buddhist influence and so many great masters, and because of their blessing, sometimes I see the world like that. I will tell you my experience recently. This will tell you how I am a struggling, aspiring Buddhist. So I made a film from the day one, even as I was making, I told my producers, just don't even think that people will watch this. And don't hope that festivals will accept. But that doesn't mean that we should be also negative and not apply to festivals. So we applied one after another. It got rejected. By the time it got rejected around the 15th time, we have already applied about 30 festivals. By the time we got rejected 15th, 16th time, suddenly we have this, strange idea. Let's use this as our marketing strategy. So film rejected by 30 festivals. Okay? Now wait, there's a more interesting story here. Now we have a strange fear. What if one of the remaining 10 festivals accept us? One after another rejection. Rejected. Yeah. Actually, we even prayed that it got rejected. Yeah, it really got rejected, like not a lot, 30, 25, something like that. So the beginning part, good Buddhists, I think. No hope. Nobody's going to watch this, all of that. By the 15th or 16th rejection, the good Buddhist is falling a little bit because you now want to be rejected. So there's that fear. So this is how I see the world now. This is my answer for you. But for your child, really difficult to answer because children, I'm actually running kids' schools for kids. Some of them are actually have been quite successful. I'm very skeptical about something called education myself. Inconvenient necessities. So I want to be really careful answering something. Right? I don't know, what do you mean by world? Can you ask him that? What is the world?
Today's world.
It is, and even that. Is he talking about things like internet, AI, and all that? Social media?
I think he refers more to war and suffering.
Oh, I see. My Buddhist, I'm so marinated by Buddhist information, so I can only think in terms of Buddhist answer. The Buddhists think of like realms, like animal realm, ghost realm, human realm, hell realm. So each have their own, they have all kinds of suffering, but each have their distinctive suffering. Distinctive human suffering is busy and not enough, no content. I think stress, busy, not enough time. The sunrise, sunset actually goes very fast, pushing, no time. And I think this no time things happens because I think we should ban calendar because those things makes things so no time. You book a massage tomorrow, 11 o'clock. From now till that 11 o'clock tomorrow, you have to work according to that. Then I don't have enough. Need more. Yeah, so for the time being, please tell your son that my Buddhist view, the world is too busy and too poverty mentality. Tell him don't grow up. Really bad idea. Really try to really slow down growing up. Get matured is the great. Matured is basically you are becoming a rotten cheese. Yeah, tell him this. Okay, maybe one more question, and we'll end it here because my jet lag is hitting me.
So it is said that Vajrayana is a faster way for realization. It is even advertised as such. Did the Buddha say that? And where? Has anyone measuring in comparison with other schools to verify this? If that's even possible. Also, it's a bit troublesome that some practitioners say that Tantra wasn't taught by the Buddha himself.
So the first part of the question, the Tantra is, swift and slow is a very, very subjective. I need to tell that first. I think I'm giving you the example of somebody taking a kilo or a bag of ore as ore. There's something, element of swiftness in there because you're not requesting for any kind of fabrication. Anyway, both of these answers, if you're coming tomorrow, I'm going to cover this. Both are quite important. It's also the good of the Tantra. Since you asked this is important question, so I will answer this. Okay. So this is what the Tantra people will say. In the general Buddhist, they will say Buddha taught in the place called Varanasi, or noble truth of suffering, truth of emotion, let's say. Now, this teaching is heard by, this is a general account is by the 5 monk. And the 5 monk heard like this: aggregates are suffering, emotions are ignorant. Okay, now the tantric people will say, there wasn't only just 5 arhats listening. There were many other Vidyadharas listening, and they hear it totally opposite. Aggregates is bliss. Emotions are wisdom. Scientifically, we cannot really prove who is right. But logically, even what I have been telling you, I'm sure you are hearing it in a different way. Tomorrow we will talk about the capacities, the different capacities, they hear a different way. Even like refuge, like the word I take refuge to the Buddha, Generally, people will hear, I take refuge to this person, the teacher. But in the Mahayana and especially Vajrayana, I take refuge to Buddha means I take refuge to the true nature of my mind. That is the Buddha. I guess it's very complex, but that's your answer now for now. Okay, go and rest.